the VIP Day Variety Showcase, where I get to highlight and spotlight the amazing clients from inside our Done in a Day program and what their VIP days are about, how they structure them, how they sell them, why they chose them, what it's benefited, what their life has benefited from having VIP days. So it's a really great way for me to just nerd out and just live in my VIP Day land with my clients. And you get to listen in and get a sneak peek and some inspiration at the same time. And so if you're here, definitely let us know in the chat. Say a hello. And again, this guest is pretty powerful. I think you'll feel her aura and her presence in your living room or at the park or wherever you are right now, because she has a presence before she opens her mouth. And I think that that's something that I really admire about her. And I'm really excited because we get a lot of questions about people who are not systems people or who are not consultants by nature, that have more of a flow to the work that they do. And so I'm really excited to share this guest with you today, because I think you're going to relate to her in a lot of ways and see how she's able to have such grand impact, even if it's not building a CRM system. Like, as much as I love that, and I'm not knocking it, obviously, because I enjoy it. However, there are more ways that you can have impact besides systems related or very systematic type approaches. So I'm going to bring up Miss Jillian, Mama J, and bring her on and have you share a little bit about you and your business.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm Jillian, Mama J Love, and I've been an entrepreneur for 10 years. I hit that milestone on my 40th birthday this past June. And it's been a wild ride, because the truth is I really started out as a side hustler, using my skills to help folks with everything from like surveys and focus groups, like my deep knowledge around data collection. And as time evolved, so did my work and so did my business. And so I'm celebrating around, I feel like it was the beginning of 2021 in which I went full time, full force into my business and vision. And so since then, it's really been, the shift actually really happened, if I'm honest, when I became a mama, hence Mama J. And the pivot I made in my brand around owning what it looks like to be a mama, and how I pour that love and attention into my clients. And so quickly, as the various work that I was juggling, both instructional data at the time, I saw a deep need and a gap in folks wanting to do equity work, or what we've called for many years social justice work, but didn't have the time, the space, the capacity to do it amidst our ever-growing job descriptions. And so because my work was part-time, I jumped on the train to be like, I can do this work. I can help us be accountable for that. And it morphed, and that work started showing up for other organizations. And before I knew it, I had stepped off other people's hamster wheels and created my own. And so before VIP days, it was, how much can I pile on my plate? How can I do all the things? Which really ultimately just showed folks that I valued quantity over quality, which I'm not proud to say, but I'm recovering. I'm a recovering people pleaser and over deliverer. And so now, after pivoting my business structure to this VIP day offer that I have an offer with clear structure, clear boundaries, and I can truly be of service now from a place of sustainability and health. So it's been a game changer.
Amen to the sustainability and all of that. And congratulations on the 10 years in business. I'm excited. In 4 years, I'll be able to say that. It'll be still a minute, but that's super, super awesome. And I think too, this is really, mentally, I don't want to say mentally exhausting, but this is deep work. Like, this is not for the light minded or lighthearted. And so when you stepped into, I guess, if I can say calling, um, like, how did you step up for it and be like, I'm ready? And like, while it's going to stretch and challenge me in all of these different ways, like, I still know that this is the work that I want to be doing.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful question. Well, I'd say I ignored the calling for a while. I, followed the conditioning of white supremacy of needing a job that led to a paycheck. And that hasn't changed. But now I feel like I've taken my depth of knowledge to really be able to offer a mixed method, interdisciplinary toolbox to the work that I offer. And so, yeah, it took a lot of time. I think that's a big factor that I've been reflecting on in this journey is that it's easy to look, right, and go on social media and be like, someone is an overnight success. But as one who's been taking the bite size and deliberate action for a decade, for me, it actually required a lot of healing. I'm a second generation entrepreneur, and there were a lot of things that I witnessed and observed from my parents that were amazing successes, but also toxic patterns that I have had to break. And so part of stepping into that was not even realizing all of that would happen, but truly knowing like I had the skills to do it. And it's kind of that quote, right? Like, who you don't have time to wait. I didn't have time to wait for someone else. I knew that I had it in me. And so it was that courage piece, the heart piece that really has allowed me to step up and do this work.
Yeah, that's super awesome. And so you obviously then had to be courageous again in changing your business model and whatnot. So what was the actual trigger points that were like, okay, what I'm doing now is not working. It's not in alignment. And started your journey on looking for something else.
Yeah, so we were about 6 months into the pandemic, and at that point it was clear it was intersecting pandemics. And you were on a summit around rest and success with Megan Meganson. And I was yearning for rest, right? Because I had been on this hamster wheel. I recreated it. I was like, what have I done? I have no way of scaling other than just adding more and more clients. And I don't have the mental, emotional capacity to do that. Simultaneously, another consultant I was partnering with, Krishana Palmer, we were working together with our mutual client, and she offered this powerful recommendation of 3 weeks of radical rest to the organization. And ultimately naming that at that point, executives and leaders had experienced such high levels of decision fatigue that it was time to just shut it down, step away, and know that and the reality was nothing was really gonna stop or fall apart, right, except maybe payroll, right? So there were systems put in place to make sure that that stuff continued, but ultimately giving the organization a reboot. And being one who values integrity, I immediately heard that recommendation along with being like, oh, there's folks out here actually trying to rest and build sustainable models, to feel like that recommendation was for me. Like, hey, Mama J, you need to do this too. And so I did. And it set me on this journey of taking time to rest. Biannually, resting 3 weeks at the summer and winter solstice, and then every 7 weeks, pausing client work to reflect, to do the very thing I hold space for leaders. And so that combines, it made it very clear, like the universe was definitely talking to me and being like, okay, how are you going to show up and make this possible in your life?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I take 2 weeks at the end of the year. And I should be taking 2 or 3 in the summer. So now you have me thinking of that even too for myself. So I love that pivot point, and it's interesting that whenever you see corporate, because right, corporate is very slow, very like not really interested, generally speaking. However, when you see corporate saying we need to take or like organizations in general saying we need to take 3 weeks to reset or whatever, like that should be an indication that this is at a level, the burnout, the hustle and bustle, it's at a high level.
Yeah.
Because if it's really affecting big organizations like that, it's absolutely affecting us small folks in major ways. And so with that, when you decided to do VIP days, did you know what it is that you wanted to help people with? Were you kind of like, here's 10 different things that I could possibly do and I'll figure it out? Or what was that process for you?
Yeah, I mean, there were so many possibilities. And what I think was really beautiful is that because the structure was new to me, I was starting from scratch, right? And so coming into your done in the day community gave me the space to really see what was possible, to really imagine. And I'll own that it took me a little bit longer than I would have liked for me to fully kind of imagine what it looked like. But I also recognize I was in the dance of both and, right? I was pivoting my business structure and I was still very much in the deep end of working with my retainer clients and thinking through what that would look like for them potentially going forward. And so for me, it was really about how can I take the transformation that I've created for individual leaders that has built the capacity at organizations, over 18 months to 3 years in a day. And so it took some time to like whittle down what that looks like. Um, and really the beautiful part is like, especially with your framework teaching, I realized I had what I needed all along, that I had been doing it in my work, but it was a matter of putting it in the VIP day structure. That was really the work. And then giving myself the space, because I think often as consultants, we don't do this, right? Of knowing what it felt like to build the assets ahead of time
Yeah.
versus, in consulting land, it's like, oh, we're building as we go. And
Yeah.
then you never quite go back to the things you built necessarily. And so that's what was really powerful, I would say, about the container you create.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I think with that, it's also ever evolving. You learn new things with each client, and while we get you 80-90% there, there's still going to be some learning and feedback that you get, as you actually do the VIP days, and then you can kind of adjust from there. But tell us who your VIP days are for. So obviously you do really grand work, but who do you work with? Why do you work with them? Like, what's the mission behind all of this?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the piece I want to be completely transparent that it's
Mhm.
evolving.
Mhm.
If you had asked me 6 weeks ago, my focus was really on global majority leaders, that's Black and Brown leaders who are in the deep end of doing this work and need the tools to really support how they've been asked to show up, right? In a lot of
Mhm.
these spaces as either the diversity hire or to hold the work of equity and inclusion at an organization. And with all that continues to happen in our world, it's also clear to me that there are white co-conspirators, and I'm using that framing very intentionally, white folks that are willing to put something on the line, to adjust the privilege, to use their privilege, to uplift and amplify Black and Brown voices. And so I also want to be of service to them. So I say all of that because I think it's important to make that note that things can shift, right, as you're doing this work. And so really, I see my VIP day for any leader in any sector committed to dismantling white supremacy and really stop putting an end to mastering oppressive leadership, because not business as usual, so we need to take on unusual ways of doing this work. And so my VIP day is a leadership coaching day that gives any leader in any sector the space to reflect and plan, and really show up and embody justice in the way that you want. So we create a 90-day plan to showcase your commitment to creating a more equitable world, like Jordan put right up here. And ultimately, I also walk alongside you during that 90 days with Voxer accountability to be your cheerleader, your co-conspirator, to remind you what you said you were going to do in this work. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah. And I love that it is kind of in any leader, because there's absolutely a need for Black and brown leaders to be supported and to have a hand in all of this. And at the same time, there are white leaders who need it's not even help at this point. It's like they need a lot. That's what I will say.
Yeah.
And they need to make decisions that may feel and will most likely feel painful. And they need to be held accountable for that.
Absolutely.
So I actually really love, and I'm reflecting back to you, that I think that having both of those as opportunities for you is really great. And I think is actually really needed.
Yeah.
So, because it's not, again, it's not little work. It's not just a flip of the switch and everything is great. It's continuous work, and it's amongst multiple types of people. So I love that.
Yeah.
So share with us a bit of your framework. Share about how you structure things. If you're on the call with the people that you work with, if you're off the call, kind of walk us through kind of the day itself and how you go about helping folks.
Yeah. It's again interesting. I love the way that you frame that it's like continuous improvement, right? So I'm definitely in the place where I have my framework and I've gone through the day a few times and it's still changing because it is a lot of intense coaching. And so the framework is really grounded in pre-work, right? So not only is there a pre-work questionnaire, but I took it one step further and created a liberation learning series so that folks are getting the teaching and the trainings of the tools we're going to practice during that day ahead of time. That way they can answer any questions they have, which is really where we start off with. It's me taking that pre-work and getting really clear about what are you trying to unlearn as a leader? What are you ready to relearn? What is your liberatory mindset that you want to claim for that day and for the 90 days going forward? And then we reflect, right? So it's taking the reflections from the pre-work, but being in dialogue around the responses that folks have given, and to see if other things have risen up, right? Since you have completed the form, because I think that's the important, like, closing the gap. That totally is me nerding out on research. It's like you can ask all the questions and there's still going to be a gap, because even the best question asker, which I consider myself, I am the worst at filling out forms. But if you get me on a call, like, I will tell you everything, right? So it's that closing that gap opportunity and seeing what ahas really elevate from our conversation. And then I really loved the part of we learn in your program around having some Mad Libs. So we have fun after lunch and we do some Mad Lib activities. And then that really brings us into the closeout, where we pull all of the different pieces we've named and acknowledged throughout the day into your 90-day intentional justice plan. Which also includes belief thoughts that we're going to work on and I'm going to remind you of in Voxer. And ultimately, I think what has been the biggest gift is hearing from leaders say, like, this was validating. I knew this, but I needed the space to have it reflected back, and be able to see that there is a way to not hold it all. and in particular for our Black and Brown leaders, because we're often the ones in the room speaking up. And so having a plan, which has seemed to be the piece in every plan, is like having someone that's willing to put something on the line for you. So it's a lot of work to not just know what you need, but how you can ask for help as it relates to this work, because we're not going to do it alone.
Yeah, it's a collective. It cannot just be one person. Fortunately and unfortunately, it'd be nice. It'd be a nice quick fix. It was just one person. But again, fortunately, because we all can be a part of it, which I think is a really beautiful part of it. It reminds me of like puzzles, right? Like, it's just one big platform, and we each have a piece in it. And what is it that we're willing to sacrifice for the better good of everyone, and whatnot? And so we all can do that. And I'm constantly seeing ways that I can do that, not just as a Black and Brown person, but in a lot of other privileges that I hold. So it's multidimensional. It is very deep work, and it's something that I definitely believe in, and am consistently looking for ways to step up, and be, again, the best leader that I can be. I'm not gonna be perfect in every way. However, it's a walk. It's a walk, just one step in front of the other.
Well timed. I even wore my favorite shirt today.
Amen to that. Like, I've been working on my perfectionism for a while. Enneagram 1 here. So I am, a lot of deep stuff around perfectionism. So,
well, the conditioning runs deep in all of us, right?
Yeah,
I mean, for me, it was all about those A pluses back in school, and that leads you to want to over deliver and please people. So it has a strong root. It's hard to break.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah, I'm having someone come and speak at the next virtual conference all about the over delivery complex, and how it's about actually overcompensating for what we think we lack. So it's going to be a really interesting, juicy, deep convo that I'm really excited about.
I look forward to that one. I'll be like this.
I know, right? Like, oh, okay. Cool. So yeah, it's she's gonna shine a really big light, which I'm really looking forward to. But love that that's your day. I love that you have the 90-day of Voxer support and whatnot. So I'm going to shift to sales and marketing. So obviously, if you have kind of these two archetypes-ish of folks that you work with, how are you getting in front of them? How are you being known? How are you selling? Is it guest podcasting? Is it speaking? Is it referrals? Would love to know.
Yeah, at this point, it feels like it's been like a combo, like a chessboard, where I'm like making the different plays. I would say what's been really powerful, and I know other folks have spoken to, is that from the program, I've built out my referral partnership program. So to know that I have a way to pay forward for folks for being that word of mouth marketing that, quite frankly, has been how I've mainly gotten clients. And so it's really been a beautiful journey of continuing to put myself out there, quite frankly, building my email list, which is where I've spent a lot of my time consistently. So now I can make, social media more optional with all the shifts that constantly are happening. And I'm having some play. Like I'm an elder millennial, so I like peak on TikTok, but I'm not really there. So I'm trying to figure out how to bring video to Instagram, right? Because I'm not trying to just continue to learn more platforms. I've also been diving deeply into sharing my thought leadership on LinkedIn, thanks to Tanya's VIP day. And I'm in that stage right now of doing the pitching to podcasts. So, if folks want to put in the comments podcasts that you'd love to see me on and or your own, like, I'm here for it. There's so many beautiful conversations we can have right now around diversity, equity, and inclusion that, quite frankly, is as simple as aligning to your values and deciding which of those words, one or all three, or, justice, anti-racism, right? Talking about how that can show up in your business right now is really, really important to me, because I think we've overcomplicated it in many ways. And the truth is, it doesn't need to be a separate project. It can't be a separate project anymore. It needs to be integrated. So I'm in the journey right now, coming from a really healthy, clean place to do this work, because I've attended to my own healing during these unprecedented times.
Yes, unprecedented they are.
Yeah.
That is for sure. And yeah, I love that you talk about it's not a separate project anymore. It's not okay, now we're going to focus on this work. It's like no, like who are you hiring? Who is in your leadership? Who's in your community? Who's on your stages? Who are you on their stage? Like
Yep.
it's in every part. And so um it's always work that's needed to be done, and at the same time I'm very grateful for the amplification of this work needing to be done from the past few years, and because it's something that every leader of a business has. And even if you're a solopreneur, you still are the leader of your business, right? That doesn't
Exactly.
discount you and be like, when I get a team, I'll think about it. No,
Yeah.
it starts with you. You are the core. So this work is for everyone. I want to wrap up with a question around what your biggest tip is, or suggestion, or thought, question, open to anything, journaling
Yeah.
prompt, is for people who are thinking about doing work in this way. So in a shorter container, that probably have like a deep topic of some sort. So speaking to, again, people who they may not work in, anti-racism
Right.
work, but it's a deep topic in whatever that sense is. What would you suggest that they do, or think about, when it comes to working in a shorter capacity when you do have deep work?
Yeah, I mean, what's rising up for me, I mean, I had an answer, but I forgot it. So, what's rising up for me now, with this beautiful conversation, is around boundaries, right? So, how are you showing up right now for your clients, but you recognize you could have a better boundary in place? Or, in other words, how could the container of a VIP day support you to work in the way that you want to be working, but you're not necessarily there now, right? Like we talk about this in coaching, right? There's point A and point B, and then there's the gap in between. So really sit in that gap and know that it's a little uncomfortable, but that's also where the juicy, creative imagination will rise. And most importantly, trust yourself. I mean, what I'm doing and what I'm offering is definitely one of a kind. And part of my work is also educating leaders and folks that it's different now. You could hire a consultant and you can get your work done, but what's truly going to transform our world is you holding that as a leader. And that's going to be uncomfortable and it's going to get a little messy. And it's definitely, there's no perfect because each of us are so unique. So trust yourself, know that you have a gift to share, and have fun with it, because you get to dismantle business as usual with this structure.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. I love it. I love it. Because I think too, people think discomfort means you're doing something wrong. And sometimes it is. Sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
Sometimes the discomfort is actually you're doing something right.
Yeah.
Like you're doing something that, again, is either for the betterment of the world, your community, your team, whatever. Um, and
Yourself, your
so,
family,
yeah,
right? Which
exactly.
is
Like
so
learning
important.
what that discomfort is. Is it
Yep.
discomfort because this is not right? Or is this discomfort because I'm doing the right thing? It's just new, unknown, I'm not doing it perfectly. All of those kind of thoughts that kind
Right.
of come up. So I love that you touched on that for sure. So where can the good people of the internet find you? Share all the places.
Yeah, you can find me at mamajlove.com. I have a weekly email series where I share all my gems and wisdom and stories, called Lead for Justice. And you can find me most days over on LinkedIn or Instagram, where I'm getting more proficient with reels. And yeah, you can find me in all those places at Mama J Love 1.
Awesome. Easy enough. Well, we will put those links in the comments so you guys can go and, again, dive deeper into the subject, learn more from Mama J. And again, whether it's around her VIP day or around the work that she does, I think that you'll gain huge benefit for being in her sphere. So definitely go and check her out. So thank you so much for being on the show. So honored and blessed. And for those of you watching, listening, thank you so much. And we have more VIP days to showcase coming up next Tuesday. So I hope to see you there. Thanks, y'all.